Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Relatable Radio Hour with me, Dr. Green. Thank you so very much for joining. Tonight, we have a great guest with us tonight who I haven't seen in a long time, but I've been following her for quite some time, and she's just doing some amazing things, and we're going to get to in just a second. But the topic tonight is going to be predicated around um, just creating your own seat at the table, right? And creating the opportunity for yourself, seeing the need to do something that you really want to do, and just kind of using your talents in different areas to just create your own destiny, right? And that's something that we've really been hammering on with this show because I know a lot of you all who watch the show, you have dreams, you have things that you want to accomplish, and sometimes you need a little nudge to get you in the right direction. And I hope that tonight's guest will further that nudge for you to moving forward on something that you want to create for yourself. Tonight, we have the pleasure to speak with Dr. Nashlie Sephus, who is the principal AI scientist for Amazon and also the founder and CEO of the Beam Path. Dr. Sephus, thank you so very much for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to reconnect. I think it's literally been since
Yes.
undergrad, since we talked, it was many moons ago. And
It's
so
many moons, many moons. Yeah,
thanks for having me.
just to take some freedom to kind of further that, we first met when I was singing at a event, and you were playing the piano for me for that song. It was a Maxwell song, I think. Was it a Maxwell song?
It was something like that. You know, I used to do a whole bunch of stuff. I don't remember,
A
but I do
multi-talented
remember
person.
playing that as well. So I think I do remember. Exactly. It wasn't like was it like one of the talent shows or something?
It was a talent show. I think it was a Delta talent show, I think.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I remember
Hmm.
now. It sure
Yep.
was. Yep.
Yep, yep, yep. So we have a very multi-talented person speaking with us tonight. And like I said, I've known you for quite some time, Dr. Cephas. So please just share with the audience a little bit about yourself and what's got you here today.
Yeah, so I really am happy to, always share my story in hopes that, it helps somebody. I have been, blessed and fortunate to be in various situations that most people who are from, where I'm from, I'm born and raised in Jackson, graduated from Murrah High School, grew up in Shady Oaks, um, went to Mississippi State for undergrad and went on to Georgia Tech for my PhD in computer engineering. But currently today, fast forward, I'm a principal AI scientist at Amazon. We work on a lot of things from training models to evaluating models for biases. There's this whole area called responsible AI, and how do we use AI responsibly. There's also another initiative that I have back at my hometown, Jackson, Mississippi, called the Beam Path. It's a nonprofit. It's been around since 2018, and I'm the founder and CEO of Beam Path. We started in the local libraries just to do free tech help, and now we help with upskilling many people in the community on various emerging technologies. We also have a makerspace downtown Jackson where you come in and learn everything from sewing and pottery to AI and robotics. So we love to engage with the community and just really be that uh, center hub where we can thrive and show people who don't normally have access to technology how they can become a part of this conversation.
It's amazing and such a huge need. I mean, the component of technology within our community is so integral now because, I mean, we can't go or do anything at this point without knowing the knowledge of using technology. And a lot of people in communities, don't really have those tools to help them, kind of gravitate in that technology field. A lot of people get really scared and kind of thrown off by it. So it sounds like you are really rolling up your sleeves and really taking charge on something that's really important. Just kind of circling back a little bit, you mentioned, of course, that we met at Mississippi State and you graduated from Murrah High School. Uh, you had a background or a need for or a need or desire to go towards something in math and science. Talk to me a little bit about how that really propelled you to go into your major in college, and just what kind of kept you interested in it.
Yeah, I first actually got introduced to engineering when I was in the eighth grade. My science teacher, she kind of pulled me to the side and she said, "Hey, I think you really like this engineering camp." It was a summer engineering camp for girls. It actually was held at Mississippi State at the
Mhm.
time, and I remember going there, and I participated in summer camps, at Jackson State and with Jackson Public Schools throughout, growing up. And so this was the first time I think that I really got a true understanding of what engineering actually was. And I remember being just blown away and just thought, okay, this is what I want to do. And if you mentioned me playing the piano, I was gonna major in music.
Oh.
That was gonna be the plan. I come from a musical family, and I was playing the piano, I was participating in competitions, and I was getting uh, my recital ready. And um, I remember engineering just kind of music being my first love. Engineering just kind of took over and stole the show a little bit. And so when I got to Mississippi State, majoring in computer engineering, I just remember how I felt just so unprepared, to be honest.
Mm.
Especially in computer engineering. I remember my first computer science course where we were programming. We were using the C language at the time, and everybody knew how to code except for me. It was like everybody knew what was going on. I was like so lost and it was the first
Hmm.
class, and I was like, man, did I miss a class? I thought this was the first day of school, but it was the real. And I was like, man, I don't know what I got myself into. Is this really for me? Because then again, you don't see that many other people who look like me in those classes, or it was already a predominantly white institution. And so it was like you were already kind of felt like you were kind of left out. And so I immediately was able to get the right help and the right support that I needed. um, and that, I think, is what kept me on the path. If it wasn't
Hmm.
for a shout out to my one of my mentors, even to this day still, who I met at Mississippi State. She was the chair of the computer science department, Dr. Donna Reese, um, and also the diversity office in the engineering school over at Mississippi State, Bagley College of Engineering, Dr. Tommy Stevenson, and the
Hmm.
whole diversity program there is what kind of kept us going and thinking that we could possibly be successful there.
Hmm. And they really did a great job of encouraging Black students to continue that engineering route because, as you said, it wasn't a lot of us that majored in that field. I didn't, major in it. You all did. I don't want to take credit for that, but it's a really technical field. It's very thorough. It's very just intense. So they did a really good job of just helping the Black community just kind of stay focused. And it really does sound like it really worked for you. So you talked about the intensity of just trying to kind of figure things out in that first day and that intense uh, sense of programming that everybody seemed to gotten a good hold on. How did you kind of get out of that place and start to really develop the skills and kind of get that confidence in yourself to say, you know what, I can do this. It's just I have to do this particular thing. What was that, and how did you get out of that place?
Well, I think I knew I was on to something because when I left Murrah High School, I was one of the top people in my class, and then uh, I kind of already felt like, okay, I know I'm a hard worker, and I know that my track record speaks for itself. So even though I was very taken kind of off guard with all the things that were coming at me at my first year. I knew that if I just worked hard enough, I can get to where I need to be. Or at least I believe that. And so I think confidence wise, there was already a little bit of that. What really I think helped me get over the hump was after my first year when I made it through. I think I had close to a 4.0, if not that. I got more scholarships. And I was like, okay, I think I'm doing something right. And then after that, I was able to get what we call a co-op or internship, where you work one semester, you go to school a semester. And
Right.
so I did that for a couple years, and that work experience really helped propel me forward too, because it was like, okay, you're making a little money, you put a little money in your pocket, and then I was able to lead the tech teams and IT teams and learn a lot just on the job training. So when I came back, after those semesters of working, coming back to school, I felt more and more confident each time, because I had some actual experience under my belt, and I knew that that at least put me ahead of the next person that didn't.
Absolutely. And it also just really kind of gives you that real life experience of what having that job is going to be like, right? When you have that co-op and you are not just a student, but you're like a working student where you're like going to work every day and getting an idea of how to be when you get to that next phase.
Yeah, and
So
I will
go
say
ahead.
this too. I think it's all coming back to me now. I say it was many moons ago, but
Yeah, it was. It's a while
we
ago.
we I was that type of person. I was gonna take advantage of every opportunity. So whether it was study, I had an opportunity to study abroad, in France and in South Korea. And I remember just positioning myself, always getting to know, the people in the admin office. If opportunities came across their desk, if new scholarships or internships came across their desk, I was one of the people that they would send it to or call, because I had a personal relationship with them. And so it really took a village to get me through and to what I am today, and what I was at the time when I graduated. And I also remember those study abroad experiences. It really opened my eyes to so many things. I'm a girl from Jackson, Mississippi, and being in Mississippi most of my life up until that point it showed me a whole different side of the world, and that in a lot of ways there were other countries that are far more advanced than the United States. And I had grown up thinking, okay, we're most advanced, but that's actually absolutely not the case in many cases. And so I think all of that contributes to my experience, the boldness, the risk I'm willing to take, because I've seen what it's like in other places. I've seen what other people experience and what it takes, and I had a lot of mentors, and always just trying to find the help that I needed.
Yeah, that experience kind of shows you exactly what you're made of. And I'm curious when you took that leap and you studied abroad, like you said, like how were those experiences and what do you, if you can, what do you remember about those experiences that really kind of helped you even to this day?
Yeah, so I'm an introvert, or at least I was it up until I had to not be. But it forces you to get out of your shell, and
Mhm.
removing yourself from your usual environment, really shows who you truly are. And so when I got out of my normal environment and I was in a place, foreign, literally a foreign place, we had these roommates and these, partners that we would kind of help us show us around the city and things like that, help us get acclimated to the culture, and forming those relationships with those people. You realize that there it's not a lot of differences between us. Everybody has struggles. Everybody goes through a lot of the same things. That's what it really showed me. I'm like, wow, we're all familiar with the struggles that we go through, especially, growing up in Mississippi, being black in America, corporate America, even as being a woman, or even being a woman in the tech industry. And a lot of other people relate to things like that or similar things. And it really just helped me bridge the gap and become, more approachable, and be able to reach out to more people and relate to more people, which overall helps in business. It helps in tech, especially if you're developing products for people, and really learn how to look at things from a diverse mindset. So it really contributed to a lot.
It sounds like one of those experiences that you've never lost the lessons that you learned from.
Oh
So
yeah.
I and I mean when you step out of your comfort zone, you really do learn about yourself and you really grow and you really do develop. And so it really sounds like your college experience really propelled and helped you to kind of advance to those next levels. So after Mississippi State is when you started
Georgia
working,
Tech.
started going, was it the Georgia Tech that you went
Georgia
to at
Tech.
that point? Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So that experience I know was completely different coming from Mississippi State. Talk to us a little bit about that journey and some of the things that you learned in that time.
Yeah, so Georgia Tech was grad school. Anybody, which I'm sure you know, you have a PhD as well. They're not just giving those things away. It's like
Right.
you got to go through some stuff, and I call it my come to Jesus moment. Um, Especially
Yes.
for me at Georgia Tech, um, majority of people, which by the way, that's when I first started studying machine learning and artificial intelligence. Georgia Tech at the time was the top producer of Black engineers and scientists at the grad level, and also it was the only top 5 engineering school in the Southeast. And I wanted to be close to home. And then they were the computer engineering and electrical engineering department was number one at the time in this area called digital signal processing. And what that was is basically taking signals like music and speech and video and being able to process it and um, automate things out of that, find patterns in those things, understand speech recognition and recognizing things in images and videos and in music. I was fascinated with the Shazam app. This was right around the time I went to Georgia Tech. His first Shazam app first came out. It's basically listening to songs to recognize them. And I just thought that was so cool. Also being a musician, and then now learning, okay, how is this thing recognizing, like it's just a phone. Like how is this thing listening to this song like a human and taking in these signals and inputs and recognizing the patterns, the lyrics, and telling me what the song is. And little did I know that that was the beginning of AI. That was the beginning of machine learning. Was first mostly widely used in music and in speech recognition. Um, Also, face recognition became something that became popular, and then analyzing video and images. And I went into that field, and Georgia Tech was number one at the time in that. And so I learned so much. It was also very difficult. I was very passionate about my research and learning more about AI and machine learning, but I was often, the only one again. And at this time, Georgia Tech was you could walk through the campus of Georgia Tech and hear 5 or 6 different languages on any given day. And so in the engineering department, especially computer engineering, majority of my, colleagues were East Asian or Indian, um, not even having been born in the United States. So that was the majority. And so now I'm a minority in America, I'm the minority in the lab in tech, also the woman, because women in tech is even more scarce, and then Black woman American in tech, it just becomes even more compounded. And so it was difficult to kind of navigate that, not because I wasn't used to other people, because like I said, I studied abroad and I had really good relationships with all kinds of people, but more so I think the other way around, them not expecting or not used to being having someone like me in the program. Like my first advisor, to remain nameless, I actually had to leave his lab because, it was just very blatant that he was, giving these opportunities to the other people in my lab and not really giving them to me. And when I confronted him about it, he was very, he even laughed at me, and just kind of brushed it off, didn't really take me seriously, um, and didn't even really put effort towards how am I going to make it out of school. I don't want to be in school forever. So I ended up leaving his lab after 3 years of doing research. I remember it was tough, but I found another advisor, was able to get back on track. Even trying to pass my qualifying exams, it took me pretty much up to the last time, the third time, before I was going to get kicked out of school. So I had to pass that exam, and it was so difficult because the way that they taught things was a lot different than the way I learned them. And there was no one to really teach you, right? And so what got me through those moments was there was a small group, the Black Graduate Student Association at the time, and we were kind of in the trenches together, and so we kind of leaned on each other. We encouraged each other to, just keep going. Some of those are the best friendships that I have, to this day, because we went through it together. And even one of the guys ended up graduating together. Now a lot of people that started with me, didn't finish with me, but at least we were able to, one or two were still there. When they say look to your left, look to your right, it was one or two of us still around. But it was a very trying experience. What I like about that though is that when I finished that PhD, I feel like I could do anything. Like you can tell me whatever, you can
Hmm.
do whatever to me. It's not gonna be worse than what I went through. Maybe
Right.
childbirth. Maybe childbirth. If I ever have a child, maybe that'll be a trying experience too. But as far as
Yeah.
that, anything else, I feel
Yeah.
like I've already done the worst that I could
Hmm.
possibly do, and I'm ready for the world now. So yeah.
Hmm. So many things that I want to go back to in what you just mentioned. But I think one of the main things that I want to go back to is it's amazing how um, you know, us as a Black community, we have to rally to encourage each other when we know some of the challenges that are put before us, when people don't want to see us prevail, or not being necessarily fair to what we need, and for you to call out the advisor for not treating you on the same level as the other students, and then for you to get that embrace from your fellow Black peers. I know that had to be very encouraging for you not to be, feeling as though you were left out on your own, and trying to figure out things on your own. So that is amazing. It's kind of speaks to kind of the same dynamic that you had at Mississippi State with the community just kind of rallying and making sure that you made it through. Something in particular, and I was gonna bring it up later, but you beat me to the punch. It does seem as though it's really not a lot of Black individuals in the realm of work that you're working in with technology. It's also even less Black women in the field. Why do you think that is such a uh, difference as it relates to um, them being involved with this technology spectrum?
Yeah, there's been studies on this. This is not just me saying it or my lived experiences. There have been actual data that shows that even in the last 25, 30 years, Black women have occupied 3% of the tech industry, and that number has not changed. It hasn't gone up. Fortunately, it hasn't gone down, according to the studies, but it definitely has not increased. And one thing that a few things that the study attributed that to was one, people can't be what they can't see. So unless those 3% can multiply themselves and be everywhere at once, so everybody can see them, it's very difficult to encourage the next generation. It also puts a lot of pressure on the few that are there to make sure that they're putting themselves out there and being seen, which I do as much as I can. I know what difference it was for me to see other women, and especially Black women, in the tech field, when I was going through getting to where I am in my career. Another reason is that a lot of times when people are in this industry, uh, they don't have the mentors that they need to help them stay. So if you're going through experiences like what I just mentioned, but on a corporate level, for
Mm,
example, and you feel like you have nobody to go to, you're either gonna sit there and suffer, which isn't good for you, or you're gonna leave. You're gonna find
mhm,
something else. You're gonna do something else, start a business, do whatever. Maybe even get out of the tech industry altogether. And so that's what they were seeing, those sort of trends too. And then of course, being a woman, a lot of women at the time this study was done, they would choose a family life over a career.
mm,
So, a lot of women, which I think I would be interested to see those studies after COVID, because I think a lot of people are doing multiple things now. They're choosing the family life. They're working multiple jobs. They're figuring a way to make it work. I don't know if we realize how to work more efficiently. since the pandemic, or if that is attributed to just the change in times and technology, us being able to work more remotely, work more efficiently, wear multiple hats, learning a lot from our previous generations. But I think that was one of the other cases that they saw when they did the study. So there's so many things that are there, that kind of stack against the odds when it comes to being in the industry and trying to increase that number. But there are, in my opinion, some ways to try to continue to work towards that, which I think is important. We need diversity in tech more than anything, so
Yeah.
because it's so accessible.
Hmm. Now, with what you said as far as having like this mentor and having someone that can encourage you, has that challenged you to kind of have that same type of presence in other Black women who, are going up the ranks in technology?
It has. So one of the reasons why when I came back to Jackson to start the Bean Path, I knew that we needed to we need to progress a lot faster than what we're doing in terms of tech exposure, and I want to go straight to the source, the most vulnerable communities and populations, serving our youth, our senior citizens, which oftentimes they're the ones that are raising the younger people, especially in some of our communities, and then also small business owners. A lot of them, especially the mom and pop shops, they're still operating in older ways, where technology can really help propel them forward. And I see a lot of ways to be present, especially for the youth, even our young females that come through our summer camp, or through our after school program at the Bean Path. I do my share of speaking engagements too. A lot of them at different schools, etc. I was fortunate enough to be one of the speakers for the top 10 scholars at Jackson Public Schools this past May. And it was good just to speak and encourage and share my story. I am definitely personally committed, even at work. We do a lot of recruiting events, specializing in recruiting diverse tech talent, and really thinking strategically about how you do that, and who are you targeting. And so it goes a long way. I've seen the difference when people like me are in the room versus when we're not. And it makes a huge difference. Sometimes just a little bit goes a long way. In the same vein, it can be very taxing sometimes to, because I still have to do my job at the end of the day, right? And so I'm also advocating for more diversity in tech, but that takes additional time sometimes. I remember the old days at Amazon when we didn't even have a diversity office. There was no such thing as DEI. The way we're going, it seems like they're trying to even get rid of that, especially in academia. I know for a fact, um, if schools like Georgia Tech and Mississippi State did not prioritize diversity in their engineering programs, I probably wouldn't even be where I am today. And so it's very important for us to just not brush these issues under the table, and to constantly advocate for these policies to improve and remain in place. So, but yeah, I definitely make it my point to try to do as much as I can.
Mhm. And you're doing it definitely, with so many different things. And it sounds like the implementation of what you're doing with your company is further solidifying that. And I definitely want to dig into that a little bit more. But after you left Georgia Tech, you got your PhD. Um, as you said, you feel like you could conquer the world because of all of the, lessons learned during that time and just the adversity that you faced. Is this when you went to Amazon at this point?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story, which I did leave this out actually. So I became uh, the CTO, a Chief Technology Officer, for a startup company called ParkPick, which is based in Atlanta. So while I was wrapping up my PhD at Georgia Tech, I was helping a young lady. Her name's Jewel Burks Solomon. Now she got married. Um, Create this company. She had this idea. She wasn't technical, but she had this idea for an app that could take a picture of a part, like a hardware, like screws, nuts, bolts, washers, nails, and then be able to recognize it, and not just recognize it, but recognize the exact part, the exact measurements and everything, and return that and a link to where they could buy that part. And this came from her working in a customer service company that worked at a parts company, and just kind of getting cursed out on the phone because people didn't know how to describe parts and they were sending the wrong part. And so she said, well, just take a picture and email it to me. And then that's when she had the idea for the app. And so I was able to build one of their first prototypes, I think, while I was wrapping up at Georgia Tech. And after Georgia Tech, I went on to New York City actually to get a job in consulting, where I worked there for about a year before I got the call back from them saying, hey, we took that prototype you built and we raised $1.5 million. And we need you to come back and be our CTO because we need somebody to keep this thing going. And I remember being in New York at the time, and it was like 20 inches of snow. And I was like, yes, Lord, I'm so ready to come back home. And so, or at least to the South. And so I accepted, even took a pay cut, but I felt like that was what I was supposed to do. And I knew I could really help her build out what she was trying to build. I like that story right there because I don't think any other company, even in corporate America, would have given me that type of management and C-suite opportunity that early in my career. After just having graduated my PhD, and I actually ended up being really good at management, like people management, which is ironic even to me because I'm an introvert. And I'm like, I don't know if I like people that much, but but I ended up being really good at it. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know, I surprised myself. So I was really grateful for that opportunity, which helped me in a lot of ways believe that I could be a CEO, lead a company, start a nonprofit, all these things. So the tail end of that story, just to finish that story, over 2 years went by. About 2 years went by, me being CTO, us building this company from the ground up, and Amazon came knocking, and they saw our technology. They were interested, and we ended up selling that company to Amazon for multi-millions. I can't say how much, but it was enough to where I could do some of the things I'm doing in Jackson, but not enough for me to stop working. And so I kind of put that in there. And so I was one of the stakeholders. Fortunately, I got a payout and was able to initially, really, when we got acquired to Amazon, I tell the story often. I thought, okay, I'm working for one of the top tech companies in the world. I've had a successful startup acquisition. I got, savings. I got stock. I never had stock before. I didn't know anything about financial literacy on that end of things. I had a 401k first time because again, I'm a grad student, right? So I'm coming out. We kind of consider ourselves late bloomers, right? So we get into the world. Everybody else had kids and
They figured it
had,
out. Yes.
yeah. So we like, okay, I got a 401k now. I'm just started, but I got one, but
Right.
so I was like, okay, I made it. And then I remember talking to one of my Indian colleagues, who was actually one of my skip level managers at the time. And he told me, yeah, I own a couple of shopping malls in India. And I was like, what? So you're doing this and you're doing that back at home? Because he was based in California. And it just really made me think. I was like, wow, this, maybe I think I made it, but maybe there's more to make, maybe there's something else. And really, to be honest, it was more in me that wanted more. I wanted to impact people more, which I do a lot of that at Amazon, but I wanted to do even more. So that brought me back to what can I do in my hometown of Jackson, Mississippi? How can I impact people in a positive way? I'm sure, going back to 8th grade, maybe if somebody else would have had the opportunity to go to that camp, that engineering camp, maybe they would also be in this same position. And so I just thought about what ways could we scale this impact across, Mississippi. And that's how, Bean Path, the idea got started. Bean Path, as well as the whole real estate project behind that, because I had money to invest. I knew that the wealthy owned real estate. At least I read that. And so I believed that. And then I said, okay, well, maybe it started out with the nonprofit in the local libraries, and that ended up, got so many people coming to get tech help from Bean Path of 2018 that took us to 2019 out, and eventually to COVID in 2020, where I needed to find a space because the library is closed. And we were considered, essential because people didn't know how to get on Zoom. They needed help checking their
Mm,
doctor's appointment records.
mhm,
Senior citizens needed help. People didn't understand, the impact of COVID and the pandemic on the tech industry. We became busier than ever because everybody at that point was forced to go more technical than they'd ever been in their business or at school. I mean, you all know, everybody knows, of course, by now, but it really showed the need for people to be more exposed to technology in general so that we don't get ourselves further and further behind. So I decided to purchase some property downtown Jackson to continue what the Bean Path was doing, but also do a lot more. Like um, we're calling this development the Jackson Tech District, where we have future plans for housing, retail. We have 2 buildings we've renovated thus far. It's a total of about 8 buildings over there. And we're talking about an area that's been abandoned majority of my life. The west side of the Central Business District, downtown on North Gallatin Street. And so the makerspace is down there, the Bean Path Makerspace. We also have the Bean Barn, which is a huge 17,000 square foot barn in the middle of the city. It's one of my favorite buildings. We've done some events in there, a lot more to come, and just learning how to navigate adding real estate developer to my resume and fundraising on the nonprofit side, and also raising capital on for various ventures at that point. And so it's again just been a wild journey, all while still keeping my day job. and I
mhm.
was I laugh even myself. Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, when we got on the call, I was like, I want to get you in and get you out as fast as possible because it seems like every minute is so essential to you. So that is amazing and such a whirlwind, like you said. And I'm gonna go back to some things because I
Yeah,
gotta get
yeah.
some more clarity on some stuff because you've just been doing so many amazing things. I gotta just add some more stuff. But when you were at the point of selling what you were doing at that time, and then you did it, sell it to Amazon and all those things, did you imagine that this is where this would propel you to? Just in that time alone, like what were your thoughts about where you were going to be going next after that point?
Yeah, I had no idea. Even today, I still sometimes wake up and I'm like, did that actually happen? And it was almost 8 years ago. It was about 7.5, 8 years ago. And so, I thought, and it's funny too, because I never really wanted to work for Amazon. But at the
Hmm.
time, when you're getting acquired by a company, you either take the job or you don't. And I needed a job at the
Right.
time. So it's funny also because I've been there so long. It's not typical to be at a tech company that long. Most people they move around. At least the millennial way. The millennial and down is like move around every 2 or 3 years. You get a little bit higher
Right.
salary. That's how you work the system. But fortunately, they've made it where um, at least incentivize me to stay. Um, uh, voice their value and having me there. And granted, it hasn't always been like that. Again, I said the first 3 years up until about COVID or the George Floyd murder is when it was very much so what we call tech bro culture. A
Yes.
lot of disrespect against women, especially against people of color. I think I have so many crazy stories people probably don't even believe, um, just of things that would happen and that were allowed to happen in this type of corporate culture. And so I remember things changing significantly for me, at least. Um, that propelled into AI, not just AI, but biases in AI and fairness.
Mm.
When there was a huge movement around 2019 um, of face recognition technologies being used by law enforcement and wrongfully implicating people of color and women, etc., when the technology got the wrong result. And so, what do you do with that? And so, a lot of times people, didn't think about technology doesn't always work. AI is not magic.
Mhm.
I mean, it's definitely not perfect. And if you don't operate accordingly, you will end up having a lot of very critical misused use cases for the
Mhm.
technology. And that was something that was really called out even amongst Congress, ACLU, NAACP, a very popular paper called the Gender Shades paper, really put a lot of these corporations on the map. And so I was actually called in to help with that because I was at the time the only Black female applied scientist at Amazon out of like 1,000, and they really needed someone who could think a little bit more towards diversity in those products, those AI products. So I was able to help create the team at Amazon for responsible AI, run a lot of tests and experiments to improve that technology, and then scale that same type of methodology across all of our other AI models and services as well. So everything from text to chatbots to speech, natural language processing, computer vision, image recognition, video processing. So many things. Um, and to answer your question, no, I didn't think I'd be doing all this. I actually didn't know I'll still be at Amazon at this time, but
Mhm.
they've made it very, just engaging, and I find a lot of meaning in my work. I know for a fact if I wasn't here at the table doing some of the things I've been doing, um, had the opportunity to speak before Congress members and Capitol Hill and working with different organizations, advancing Amazon in terms of responsible AI. I just I get a lot of satisfaction out of the work that we do. I mean, we still got a lot of improvement that's needed and a lot of ways to go. But I believe if I weren't here, we wouldn't even be this far. So
Mhm. And I just congratulate you so much for just continuing to persevere and to just like you said earlier, you always put yourself in those opportunities to just progress and to do more and to be pushed and to be doing more. And I congratulate you for never losing that spirit, for just
thank you.
always wanting to push forward and just progress because it's so easy to get stagnant and to get complacent. And you obviously have not done that. And so I just really applaud your efforts for continuing to do this. It's such an important thing that you're doing. I really applaud you for keeping on with it.
Thank you.
Um,
I appreciate you.
you, oh, you were so welcome. So, I mean, you multitasking, working with Amazon, you have the Bean Path. You've kind of shared with us a little bit about, what you're doing. And by the way, I mean, such an amazing thing to place it where you've placed it in that downtown area, because like you said, I mean, for years, I mean, as long as I've known it as well, it's just been an area that's just been, desolate and just unused and abandoned. So to bring some vitality and to revitalize that area and the plans that you have for it, I mean, that's amazing. It's very well needed for the Jackson community. So thank you for strategically placing it there. Um, but I would imagine, being a small business owner myself, there are always some challenges that come with, creating something. And I'm sure just even in your spectrum, having to create something that you want to kind of happen. What are some of the challenges that you have faced in being a small business owner? And of course, wanting to, place it where you placed it, because I'm sure that, that had to have come with some type of challenge of some sort, because it's not an easy thing. I'm fortunate enough to do a lot of my stuff remotely, but you actually were like creating a space, and I know that comes with different challenges. What are some things that you dealt with during that time?
Yeah, there's been so many challenges. Oh my God. I finally understand now, and Jackson and the area and just Mississippi in general. I finally understand exactly why things happen the way they do. It's very much a part of a larger system. We talk about systemic injustices and systemic things. It's almost like by design. We've seen this model across other cities, like even Atlanta being the way it is now. I think it's really hard to get anything under $500,000 in the city limits. If you're looking towards like housing, if you're purchasing, it's really difficult. Other cities like Detroit and Baltimore and Um, Jackson is, capital city, majority Black, of course. We sit in, you know, majority for the last, I don't know, 20 or so years, majority Republican state. And not to get into parties or anything, but a lot of the reasons why, we've seen things like the water crisis and the political issues with, the CCID was a big controversial thing, the Capital City Improvement District. And a lot of these things are the over like the battle of power of this downtown area. And so as we look at history, as people have left the city, unfortunately, we're now closed. I think Jackson Public Schools closed like 17 schools to consolidate, and be able to still maintain. We had a lot of challenges in the city. We haven't seen much development at all since before the pandemic, and even then it was on this decline. And these are just facts and numbers. It has been uh, definitely a challenge. One, when I first came in, um, looking at spaces, I think it was really originally around 2019. And so I wanted to, had a few different ideas in mind, but ended up contributing and figuring out how can I contribute in terms of tech. And so I really just wanted one building. The barn was, I just wanted somewhere we could kind of have more activities and events, robotics competition type of thing. So I looked at that building, found out the same owner owned majority of the property around it. Gave me a great deal. It was a owner financing deal because unfortunately I couldn't get a bank loan, which was crazy to me because I had the money in the bank, but they would not give me the loan, and they just thought it was the craziest idea. And then that's when I learned not to share so much. If I would have told them, "Hey, I'm building housing projects," they probably would have given me the loan. Um, when you talk about and this was various banks, majority Black banks, Black owned banks, other commercial banks, it was just so difficult. I remember also trying to find a developer that could help me with the project and help me raise capital for the project. We it was almost like all the developers didn't want to touch it, because they felt that one, Jackson is the way it is. It was on a decline. They had actually, in some of their defense, they had actually seen the decline and had halted a lot of their projects as well. So these are experienced developers saying, "Yeah, we're not even doing projects in Jackson right now because of the market and where we think it's headed." And this was all before we knew the pandemic was coming. So imagine after the pandemic, it was like, okay, for sure, this is a difficult place to do development, because the economy slowed down. If you thought Jackson was
Right.
slow before the pandemic, after the
Right.
pandemic, it was a complete ghost town downtown. Even after we started getting back in the office, and I think we had even a study come in, a guy come in and do a study after 3 p.m. He said that the time was 3 p.m. when it became a ghost town. So it wasn't even 5 o'clock like most cities, downtown area kind of evacuate. It was around 3 p.m. So these are the numbers and the metrics that we're looking at and why it's so difficult to do this type of development. And then any type of retail that you're looking to come in, they're going to look at the median income around that area. So the median income in the Jackson area is about $50,000, which that's probably more. It's probably less at this point, because we have even more decline in population since COVID. Mississippi, matter of fact, was the only state that lost population after the pandemic, where in the southeast, whereas every other southeastern state gained population. So we're constantly losing people. We're losing tax dollars that can help. And then comes the water crisis, quote unquote, which we know it was, more than just a one-time crisis. It's been an ongoing thing
Right.
for decades.
Ongoing.
But that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. And any investors that were looking at coming to Jackson, any retailers, they all put the brakes on it, almost like, oh, this is a joke. We can't even businesses that were there were difficult to operate during that time period. So yeah, challenges. We're no strangers to that. I have been just fortunate, and I say by God's grace to just still be here, to still keep going, to still believe in the project, and being able to do what we have done thus far as the makerspace and the bean barn. And also, the market, believe it or not, is on the upturn. And so we have been able to re-engage with a lot of the partners we were working with before. More developers are coming to Jackson. More investors are now putting eyes on Jackson. And so it's also all that's been working in our favor. Um, the politics, I do believe that people are just working together a lot more than what they had in the past, and that's only going to help us moving forward as well. So these are the things that keep me going and keep me hopeful that we can do a lot more than what we've done.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't even put into context the whole COVID, the pandemic part of it. I mean, that in itself was a struggle for just the normal person. But I can imagine, what you were trying to do at that time. That had to have been such a headache, such a painstakingly difficult thing. But you did essentially persevere, and you actually did, get it to where you wanted it to be. Talk to me a little bit about how that must have felt to finally push through that obstacle and actually get, the property in the area in which you were seeking.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. We have every year, the Bean Path has our anniversary celebration to celebrate another year being operational, usually in October. And this year will be the week of October 20th, a whole week of activities. Um, what has really what I've really been surprised at or impressed by is how BeanPath, the nonprofit, has been leading kind of the way in this whole development. It's what has been bringing people out. It's what's been attracting outside press and outside partners and even funding. We raised over $2 million with BeanPath alone, and I always thought it would be the other way around. I always thought the real estate would help me sustain the nonprofit, but it's almost like the nonprofits was pushing the real estate development forward. And so we've been excited to see how the Bean Path has just grown with our makerspace classes, our youth programs. We started our senior citizen program this year and had our first graduates of that program. And they invited all their families out. They were doing all sorts of stuff in that program with like an AI garden. They were learning how to use AI to look up recipes, learning how to prevent themselves, prevent against fraud. So it's just been wonderful to tap into the community and see, all the impact that has, because those are the people that are usually
Mhm.
left behind, and most programs don't really focus on. So we try to just fill the gap. We know there are other partners in this ecosystem. If you look at the colleges and universities, government, other organizations that fill in those other gaps. So we try to just fit in right there to make sure, we're just providing a seamless ecosystem for everybody involved.
Mhm. Mhm. That's beautiful. If there's someone that's listening, in particular, Black women who are listening to you right now, with you being in your position and just having just the multitude of experience that you've had in technology, engineering and technology, I should say. What would you tell them, as it relates to going forth on something in technology, engineering, or anything in general? What would you tell this particular listener?
Yeah, so I would say don't count yourself out. Don't discount what you don't know. You can always get to where you need to be. You just might have to put in a little bit of work, but you can do it. So just follow your passion. Um, Also, don't forget to give back, reach back. I think actually there was a study shown that Black women do a lot of that. Like out of all the groups, they do that the most, giving back to their community. So almost investing in each other, investing in Black women almost helps everybody. They say a rising tide lifts all boats. If you help this community, if Jackson is revitalized, and the entire state of Mississippi is revitalized. It starts, you can start there. And so I think also don't, pigeonhole yourself. If you have experience in one thing, doesn't mean that you can't transfer those skills over to something else. Um, and also just don't be afraid to embrace technology. I mean, I tell people all the time, if you're interested in sports, maybe you're interested in journalism. You pretty much at this point you have to have technology in there somewhere, or AI. So remember that it's not just this set apart thing; it's ingrained in everything we do, or at least it will be here pretty soon.
It definitely will. And again, I mean, the reaching back that you've done for this city is amazing. And to be a homegrown super hometown hero is how I'm gonna denote you as. That's an amazing thing to have a badge of honor for. So it's an amazing thing that you saw the need to reach back and to give into your community. One last question for you. What is one word that personifies who you are?
Determined.
Mm,
Yeah, that's what I would say. Actually, and I'll actually cheat a little bit. So PhD to me, uh, it stood something. It meant something personal to me: perseverance, hard work, and determination. And that's always I had that actually on my computer all throughout school. So that's kind of what kept me going.
absolutely. Determined. I think there needs to be another word for what you kind of signify, because I think determined, yes, that sounds like surface level. I think you're more than determined. I don't know
Mm.
what that word. I have to look into a dictionary
Resilient.
kind of.
'Cause I was gonna say
Yeah,
resilient.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, I want to use that one. Yes, yes, absolutely. Dr. Nashlie Sephus, thank you so very much again for joining our show and dropping the nuggets that you've dropped tonight. I know that a lot of people are going to be just transformed from your journey, what you have experienced, and how you have created your own destiny, so to speak. You've created your own seat at the table. People need to hear that. I know that a lot of people are thriving off of your journey and what you've shared tonight. So, if individuals want to kind of follow the beam path process and the progress, I should say, how can people reach out or see how that's going?
Yeah, so definitely you can follow us on all social platforms at The Bean Path, TheBeanPath, or you can go to our website, thebeanpath.org. We also have a newsletter you can sign up for. We are literally located downtown Jackson, Mississippi. Our maker space is on 451 North Gallatin Street, and you can attend our classes. All of our events are located on our website. We also advertise them in other places throughout the city as well. So we love to engage with you and help you with whatever your tech needs are.
Absolutely. That sounds great. And one last thing before I let you go. What's something that you're grateful for today?
Oh man, I'm grateful for my health. Um, I think it all starts with if I'm healthy, then I can help other people. But if I don't help myself, then I'll perish. So just grateful for my health and being able to do that self care and just pour into myself. Trying to eat healthy, working out, making sure that I'm mentally prepared, and it helps me do all these things that I'm trying to do. So I'm really
Mhm.
grateful for that.
Yeah, that is definitely something to be grateful for. I would say I am just grateful for inspiration because I definitely have been inspired from what you shared with us today, and then just to know the challenges that you overcome, just truly inspirational. So I appreciate that. So I'm really grateful for it. So thank you again. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for joining tonight's show. Be sure to join us again next week. We're going to have another amazing topic, another guest. I hope you all have a great evening. Have a great weekend.